Chapter 62. You are listening at Novelful.audio. Lu Susu, ever the dutiful maid, discreetly stepped back, her long-held admiration for Qin Ting finally bearing fruit. From the start, she had been captivated by him, Qin Ting, the renowned young master from a distinguished Eastern Wasteland family, blessed with lineage and exceptional talent. Now, his ascension to Holy Son of the Xiantian sect all but guaranteed his future dominance over the Eastern Wasteland. Maintaining her proper demeanor, she offered Niayu a respectful greeting, showing no hint of arrogance. Niayu, impressed by her wisdom, gave a slight nod in acknowledgement. Entering the palace, Niayu found Qin Ting. "What brings you here so early?" Qin Ting inquired. "Sir," Niayu replied, "the spirit beast egg you entrusted to my care is showing unusual activity. It appears to be on the verge of hatching." Qin Ting, raising an eyebrow, recalled the egg. "Lead the way," he instructed, "let's take a look." Following Niayu, they arrived at an attic. The guards, upon seeing them, bowed respectfully. "Greetings, young master." Qin Ting nodded, a gesture of acknowledgement. Inside, a jade platform crafted from heavenly fragrant warm jade dominated the room. To outsiders, its use would seem an extravagant waste of resources, but here, it was commonplace. Resting on the platform was an egg, its surface etched with strange lines and emitting an otherworldly aura. The spirit beast egg, the egg's aura grew increasingly erratic, suggesting imminent hatching, but its shell seemed resistant, hindering the creature within. Qin Ting smiled. "Little one," he said, "I'm here to help." He channeled a surge of vital energy into the egg, strengthening its aura. Crack. A shadow burst forth, hovering in the air. Niayu gasped, then exclaimed with delight, "Congratulations, young master." Seeing the figure before him, Qin Ting couldn't suppress a grin. This was a welcome surprise. A dragon. A true, white dragon. A mythical beast. Divine beasts were incredibly rare and immensely powerful in this world, and the little white dragon before him was the real deal. The white dragon darted through the air before settling above its discarded eggshell. Crunch, crunch, it devoured the entire shell, replenishing its energy as it took in its surroundings. Spotting Qin Ting, the white dragon sensed a familiar aura, the source of the energy that had helped it emerge. Its eyes filled with affection, it swooped to Qin Ting's side, circling him before landing on his shoulder. Looking at the little white dragon, Qin Ting felt a surge of affection and an idea came to mind. He produced an elixir, a Xingyuan pill, a valuable concoction. The little white dragon sniffed at it, then seemed to turn up its nose. Qin Ting chuckled and this time produced an elixir with a faint golden glow. This was no ordinary pill. A Dian pill. A treasure that, if revealed, could ignite a bloody scramble. The little white dragon perked up and promptly gulped down the Dian pill, then gazed at Qin Ting expectantly, circling him repeatedly. Qin Ting smiled, and several Dian pills appeared in his hand. With a gleeful chirp, the little white dragon swallowed them all. It circled Qin Ting a few more times, then nestled into his sleeve and promptly fell asleep. Niayu bowed once more. "Congratulations, young master. Acquiring this mythical beast ensures your future dominion. Your luck is truly extraordinary." Qin Ting's expression shifted at Niayu's words. Perhaps luck did play a role in all this. Having plundered Yi Qiu's luck, the spirit beast egg had hatched, revealing a true dragon. This truly seemed to be the result of increased luck. Thinking of this, Qin Ting's hunger for luck value intensified. When would the next child of destiny appear? Chapter 63. You are listening at Novelful.audio. Qin Ting had been spending all his time with the little dragon lately, and even gave him a name, Bai Ling. The little dragon, hearing this, happily zipped around Qin Ting, clearly loving the name. Bai Ling was incredibly attached to Qin Ting, always snuggling up in his sleeves. Qin Ting had been feeding Bai Ling spiritual pills, and Bai Ling was showing him just how powerful a mythical beast could be. Bai Ling was only at the Yuan Dan realm when he first chirped. After a few days of Qin Ting's pill regimen, he'd actually broken through to the divine will realm. Qin Ting was honestly a little jealous. A divine beast lived up to its name, converting the pill's energy into pure power, but the cost was insane, over 300 Dian pills. That was a small fortune, worth more than some entire sects. Of course, Qin Ting had deep pockets. He had access to the Qin family's resources, and as the Holy Son, he had considerable sway over the Xiantian sect's vaults as well. Still, the thing was, Bai Ling seemed less interested in Dian pills now. After hitting the Shenluan realm, he barely touched them, only reluctantly nibbling on a couple when he was truly hungry, and he'd let out a few whines of complaint. Qin Ting chuckled, watching the pouting Bai Ling. He produced another elixir, this one shimmering with strange light, stars twinkling, sun and moon cycling within, for symbol pills. Even the toughest cultivators would go crazy for these. Bai Ling gulped down the 4-symbol pill and went back to napping in Qin Ting's sleeves. Feeling the surge of power coming from Bai Ling, Qin Ting shook his head. Expensive, sure, but worth it. At this rate, Bai Ling would be in the magical realm before long. Just then, Niayu approached and bowed. Young master. Qin Ting looked up. What is it? Niayu replied, the Elders' Hall requests your presence to discuss important matters. Qin Ting raised an eyebrow. The Elders' Hall. Officially, Master Ling Xiao, the headmaster, led the Xiantian sect. But Master Ling Xiao was always off cultivating and not really involved in the day-to-day stuff, so, someone had to manage the massive Xiantian sect. That's where the Elders' Hall came in. It was made up of 13 elders, and they decided most of what happened in the sect. Qin Ting's father, Emperor Qin, was the top dog in the Elders' Hall, the Grand Elder. Qin Ting nodded. Sounds like something big was going down. He headed towards the Elders' Hall, disciples bowing as he passed. Greetings, Holy Son. Holy Son. The male disciples looked at Qin Ting with admiration. Su Hao and the others who had followed Qin Ting to the Lianyan Mountains had returned to the sect and were spreading tales of his exploits like wildfire. He'd single-handedly suppressed the Yuancher sect, forcing their true disciples to kneel and apologize. He'd faced down a powerful demon of the shrine and stood his ground. He defeated the combined might of 3 holy lands. A true hero. Most of the disciples were young and full of fire, in that stage of life where they admired the strong. They idolized Qin Ting, and the female disciples looked at him with open admiration. Qin Ting was, frankly, perfect from every angle. He had an amazing family, incredible talent, and drop-dead gorgeous looks. Now he was the Holy Son. How could the future head of Xiantian sect not be admired? Qin Ting smiled and nodded, making everyone feel at ease. The Xiantian sect's elder hall. Hall wasn't really the right word. It was more like a miniature world. As Qin Ting stepped inside, he felt like he'd walked into a starry sky. The stars shone like a dream. 13 thrones surrounded by Dao Yun runes were scattered around the starry expanse, radiating majesty and mystery. A throne rose in front of Qin Ting as he entered. As the Holy Son, he had a special status. As this was the central place of power in Xiantian sect, he was entitled to sit. Qin Ting sat down and nodded slightly. So, he said, raising his voice, what brings me here, elders? Qin Ting was pretty casual with the elders. He knew that 9 out of the 13 had pledged allegiance to his Qin family, either openly or secretly. In other words, in this elders' hall, Qin Ting essentially represented the will of the majority. A gentle voice spoke up. Indeed, this summons is of the utmost importance, Holy Son. Another voice added, yes, this matter requires your personal attention. Qin Ting asked, what is it that requires my presence? An old voice replied, the Xuandu immortal realm has appeared. Qin Ting's pupils constricted slightly at the mention of the Xuandu immortal realm. The Xuandu immortal realm. Chapter 64. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xuandu immortal realm. The Xuandu immortal realm is shrouded in mystery. It surfaced in a deserted part of the eastern wasteland 10,000 years ago, discovered entirely by chance. The lucky soul who stumbled upon it found a treasure trove. Magic weapons, potent elixirs, and powerful mental cultivation techniques were everywhere. News spread like wildfire, and sects from far and wide flocked to the site, confirming the rumors. The Xuandu immortal realm was indeed overflowing with riches, but here's the catch. Upon entering, everyone's cultivation level gets knocked down to the magical power realm, no matter how powerful they were before. Also, the realm can only hold 1,000 people at a time. Any more, and everyone gets booted out, plus, the Xuandu immortal realm only stays open for 3 months at a stretch. Then, poof, it vanishes without a trace. The next time it pops up, it's in a different location, and the timing is never consistent. The only constants are the 3-month window, the suppression of cultivation to the magical power realm, and the 1,000-person limit. Such a bizarre place has naturally drawn the attention of many powerful figures. Even Patriarch Yinghuang of the Xiantian sect, considered the top dog in the eastern wasteland back then, took a crack at unraveling its secrets. But even with his immense power, Ancestor Yinghuang couldn't figure out the Xuandu immortal realm's deal. Over these millennia, the various sects in the eastern wasteland have established certain rules. Essentially, don't mess with the Xuandu immortal realm's inherent limitations. After some serious bloodshed, the sects divvied up quotas for entry. The Xiantian sect scored 180 slots. Don't think that's a small number. Keep in mind the eastern wasteland is vast, teeming with countless creatures. There are millions upon millions of sects. Just among the Holy Land level sects, you've got the Xiantian sect, Yuanchi sect, Pilgrim sect, Ancient Shrine sect, Qianyuan sect, and Xingyue sect, the big six overlooking the entire eastern wasteland. Then there are dozens of super sects, like the Bagua sect and Piaoxue sect, and hundreds of first-rate sects, plus a sea of second- and third-rate outfits. The Xiantian sect getting 180 places is a major win. The Yuanchi sect, usually strong, only gets 120, and the Qianyuan sect and other less powerful holy lands get a few dozen. These 6 holy lands control a huge proportion of the slots, showing their dominance over resources, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. Might makes right, Qin Ting asked. Where will the Xuandu immortal realm appear this time? An aged voice replied, near the capital of a small country, the Dongshu kingdom. It opens in a month. The sect has already chosen you, the Holy Son, to prepare. Another gentle voice added, Holy Son, every disciple entering the Xuandu immortal realm is a top-tier talent, the cream of the crop. They'll gain incredible advantages there, and surely become powerful masters later. That's how our Xiantian sect keeps getting stronger. Qin Ting nodded. Exactly. The rich get richer, and the poor get poorer. Qin Ting suddenly stood up, looked around, and declared, since I'm the Holy Son, I have to prioritize the Xiantian sect's interests. The Yuanchi sect is getting too big for their britches, constantly provoking us. They need to be taught a lesson. The old voice inquired, and how do you propose we teach them this lesson? Qin Ting grinned. Those 120 slots for the Yuanchi sect are still too many. Another voice objected, the quotas were set thousands of years ago. If we forcibly change them, it could stir up a hornet's nest with the other sections. Qin Ting smiled slightly and said quietly, 120 people may go in, but there's no guarantee they'll come out. Silence fell over the elder hall. Finally, the elders spoke as one. Agreed. Qin Ting nodded, turned, and walked out of the hall. As he left, the old voice murmured, watch out for the young ones. Another voice praised, the Holy Son has real guts. He's a hero. Our Xiantian sect is destined to rule the eastern wasteland. Absolutely. Yes, indeed. Emperor Qin didn't appear in the elder hall, which is typical. His cultivation is off the charts, and while he's like Master Ling Xiao in that he stays aloof, Emperor Qin maintains a tight grip on everything happening in the elder hall. The quick approval of his plan against the Yuanchi sect was definitely influenced by Emperor Qin's backing. However, Qin Ting also has his own personal reasons for targeting the Yuanchi sect. The 10,000 gods code he's cultivating requires incorporating top-level mental techniques, and the Yuanchi sect's Yuanchi Avenue is a contemporary masterpiece. Back in the day, Yuan Yangzi, the founder of the Yuanchi sect, used the Yuanchi Avenue to dominate the landscape and look down on the eastern wasteland. Eventually, he established the prestigious Yuanchi sect, a holy ground of spiritual practice. A smile played on Qin Ting's lips. Yuanchi Avenue. I'm intrigued. Chapter 65. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Xuandu immortal realm had opened. The news sent shockwaves across the entire eastern wasteland. Sects from every corner of the land flocked to Dongshu, a small, relatively unknown kingdom. The Xuandu immortal realm had materialized in a mountain range bordering Dongshu City, the kingdom's capital. The emperor of Dongshu hadn't slept well in days. Never before had Dongshu Kingdom seen so many powerful cultivators converging on its lands. Masters of the mystic arts, figures rarely seen, were now commonplace. Even powerful figures from the holy shrines were in Dongshu City, all beings he couldn't afford to offend. Dongshu Kingdom was tiny, and its emperor, the strongest within its borders, was merely a cultivator with magical powers. Ironically, the Lingyun sect, which Dongshu Kingdom revered, was only second-rate. Though its leader, Yinhejunren, was a force to be reckoned with, he couldn't stand alone, and the Lingyun sect didn't have a single spot reserved for entry into the Xuandu immortal realm. Another massive spaceship loomed over Dongshu City. The emperor sighed. Here we go again. Superpowers had been descending upon Dongshu City for days. The Yuancher sect, the Pilgrim sect, all but one of the 6 holy lands, the Xiantian sect, had arrived. As the local ruler, he was obligated to pay his respects. Many of those visits had been disappointing. The major sects of the Holy Land simply looked down on him and refused to receive him, but with each new arrival, the emperor felt compelled to try again. Disrespect was not an option. Who knew what might happen if those sects grew displeased? His entire kingdom could be obliterated. Even the Lingyun sect wouldn't protect him, they'd sever all ties to avoid being implicated. The emperor, ruler of a vast territory, was reduced to the cautious demeanor of a beggar. A pitiful state indeed. He walked out of the palace gates, gazing at the approaching spaceship, until he could clearly discern the flag it bore. His eyes widened. Emblazoned on the flag was a single, prominent character, Xian. Xiantian sect. The overlord of the eastern wasteland had arrived. Indeed, the newcomers were members of the Xiantian sect. This time, Qin Ting wasn't traveling in the Taiyu flying tower. As the holy son of Xiantian, he was obligated to travel aboard the sect's official spaceship. It was a colossal, awe-inspiring vessel, rivaling even his own Taiyu flying tower. Atop the spaceship stood a group of young disciples, radiating power. They were the chosen ones, selected to enter the Xuandu immortal realm. Each was exceptionally skilled, a once-in-a-lifetime genius. These 180 disciples represented the elite of the Xiantian sect. Even Su Hao, once considered a genius, hadn't made the cut for this expedition. Leading the disciples were 3 true disciples, Luo Yuan, Li Juning, and the newly appointed Fu Qian. All 3 were masters of supernatural powers. Zhou Pingyue, spurred by Li Juning's breakthrough, had entered seclusion for days, missing out on this opportunity. Feng Qianhan, fearing Qin Ting, had made excuses to avoid the trip. Zhao Linger, another new true disciple, had pressing matters to attend to and was absent as well. Beside Qin Ting stood Niayu, naturally, accompanied by 3 powerful old men. These elders were clearly masters of the divine palace realm. Given that the most promising disciples of the Xiantian sect were embarking on this journey, precautions were essential. The sect's future was at stake. The residents of Dongshu City recognized the spaceship instantly. Look! It's the Xiantian sect. Holy Sun Xiantian is here too. All 6 holy lands have finally gathered. The entire city was abuzz. The arrival of such a colossal entity as the Xiantian sect commanded everyone's attention. As the spaceship landed, the emperor was already waiting nearby. Seeing Qin Ting and his entourage emerge, he hurried forward to pay his respects. Gao Qi, Lord of Dongshu Kingdom, greets Holy Sun Xiantian. The powerful figures of Dongshu Kingdom followed suit. We greet Holy Sun Xiantian. Cultivators from smaller sects, swept up in the moment, bowed in unison. We greet Holy Sun Xiantian. For a moment, it seemed as though the entire city was bowing before Qin Ting. His robes fluttering, Qin Ting stood tall, a god descending to earth, a smile playing on his lips. He said softly, "No need for such formalities." His voice was quiet, yet it resonated throughout the entire city. With a slight gesture of his right hand, everyone who had bowed felt a gentle force lifting them upright. They stared at Qin Ting in disbelief, witnessing what seemed like a miracle. It was astonishing. He had effortlessly raised up thousands of people. Was he truly only in the realm of supernatural powers? Even masters of the Shintan realm would struggle to achieve such a feat. This holy son of Xiantian was truly terrifying. Chapter 66. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In Dongshu City, where Yuanshi Gate was located, a guy in a bright yellow robe stood, hands clasped behind his back, eyeing the Xiantian sect people from afar. A smirk played on his lips. "Xiantian holy son, you're really putting on a show," he murmured. An old man beside him bowed his head. "Just trying to impress the big shots. Your cultivation is unmatched, holy son. Don't let it bother you." This dude in the bright yellow robe? None other than Yuan Hao, the Yuanshi holy son himself. He was over 30, at the peak of his magical powers, and a legend in the outer realms, having taken down 2 powerhouses from the Shindai clan. His name echoed throughout the eastern wastelands. Yuan Hao chuckled and shook his head. Xiantian holy son's got some tricks up his sleeve. Can't underestimate him. Though, gotta thank him for taking out the trash, Yen Han. That guy was a real pain. Yen Han, a true disciple, was supposed to be the face of Yuanshi sect. He and Yuan Hao were always butting heads, Yen Han claiming to be Yuan Hao's rival, but really, it was all about family connections. Yen Han was the grandson of Yuanli, the supreme elder of Yuanshi sect. Yuanli was a virtual god, one of the 3 major powerhouses in Yuanshi sect. With that kind of backing, even Yuan Hao couldn't go too far. With Yen Han out of the picture, he wouldn't have to deal with him anymore. The old man beside him, his confidant, chuckled. The supreme elder was furious. Swore he'd make Xiantian holy son pay someday. Yuan Hao scoffed. That old windbag? All talk. Does he really think he can mess with Emperor Qin? That he gazed toward Xuandu immortal domain. A storm was brewing, over at the Xiantian sect's residence. Qin Ting was all ears as Niayu gave his report. All 6 holy lands had arrived in Dongshu Kingdom. The holy suns, Yuanshi, stars and moon, ancient, pilgrimage, were all here, a gathering of the East Wasteland's top talents, the chosen ones. Xianyuan sect hadn't named a holy son yet, though Mu Leng, the sect leader, was pushing for Mu Qingyi as holy maiden, facing resistance from within the sect. Knowing Xuandu immortal realm was dangerous, the Qianyuan sect leader decided to keep his daughter away, sending her to the ancestral lands to hopefully break through to the magical power realm instead. Xuandu immortal realm was getting unstable, about to open any day now. Qin Ting nodded. The immortal territory was brutal. The higher the cultivation, the harder it was to use your strength, which is why the younger generation was sent in. Xuandu immortal realm was a breeding ground for masters. Grab some rare elixirs, maybe some killer moves, and if you made it out alive, you were practically guaranteed to reach the divine platform realm. That's how the holy lands kept getting stronger, while the smaller sects stayed at the bottom. And in Xuandu immortal realm, blood was always spilled. Boom. Xuandu immortal realm was finally opening. A gate materialized in the void, soaring skyward. Monks from every sect took flight, heading for the gate. The elders from the 6 holy lands, all divine platform realm powerhouses, gathered at the portal. The power distribution among the 6 holy lands was obvious. Xiantian sect brought 3 divine platform experts, Yuanshi sect brought 2, while Ancient Shrine, Pilgrim sect, Qianyuan sect, and Xingyue sect each brought only 1. Seeing the portal wide open, the powerhouses boomed. Only those with the immortal realm order may enter. Violators will be executed. That the immortal realm order was a token issued by all 6 holy lands. Only those with the token could enter the Xuandu immortal domain. An old guy in black darted forward, immortal domain order in hand. He was fierce, his aura screamed divine altar peak powerhouse. Suddenly, a streak of light approached, a middle-aged man covered in blood, shouting, "The immortal domain order isn't his. He killed the young master of my Qinghai sect and stole it. Stop him." His voice was crazed, filled with pain and grief. Qinghai sect was just a minor sect. The immortal domain order was their most precious possession. Their young master, a magical power cultivator before 50, was their hope for the future. All their resources went into him, hoping he'd shine in the Xuandu immortal realm. But on the way, this old man in black ambushed them, killing the young master on the spot and taking the immortal realm order. how could the middle-aged man not be driven mad by the pain? But the elders of the 6 holy lands looked on coldly, as if deaf. They watched the old man in black sneer and enter the Xuandu immortal realm. Whoever held the token entered. The 6 holy lands only recognize tokens, not people. The weak never get justice, that's the brutal truth of this world. Ruthless. Chapter 67. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Immortal Domain Order. It's the golden ticket, the express lane for any sect trying to make it big. Every time the Xuandu immortal realm opens, you see sects shooting up like crazy, but here's the flip side, it's also a curse. The Immortal Domain Order has been the death warrant for countless sections. Just look at Qinghai Gate, they're a prime example of that. Everyone gave the Qinghai Gate leader a pitying look, knowing they were toast. Powerhouses like Yuanshi Gate, Pilgrimage Sect, and Ancient God Pavilion were already heading in, one after another. Remember, the Xuandu immortal realm only stays open for 3 months, so every second counts. Let's move. Qin Ting barked. The Xiantian sect disciples followed him, all stepping through the massive portal. Inside the Xuandu immortal realm, everything changed in an instant. This was another world altogether. Mountains, palaces, forests, lakes, you name it, it was there, like stepping onto another planet. And the spiritual energy? It was way thicker here than outside. Even thicker than at Qin Ting's own Taishu Peak. Everyone could feel this intense spiritual energy, almost like breathing liquid gold. One monk blurted out, just training here for 3 months is worth decades of grinding it out in the real world. That comment definitely got some heads turning. Sure, there were treasures everywhere, but that also meant danger around every corner. Training here. Safe bet, for sure. Even some Xiantian sect disciples were starting to get that idea. Qin Ting shot them down. Cultivation is a fight. If you can't handle the heat, get out of the Xiantian sect. We don't need that kind of dead weight. Those disciples freaked, sweating bullets. They bowed their heads, begging forgiveness. Qin Ting sized them up and then said flatly, let's go. Once inside the Xuandu immortal realm, everyone scattered. The place was huge, bigger than some whole dynasties. There were all kinds of treasures just waiting to be found. The trees here were enormous, fed by that crazy spiritual energy. Just one leaf was bigger than a grown man. And tough as nails. Regular spells couldn't even scratch them. Trees like this could be used to make some serious spiritual weapons. Qin Ting and his crew saw tons of people hacking away at trees, hoping to haul them out of the Xuandu immortal realm. Qin Ting just shook his head, knowing they were trading gold for dirt. These trees were just the basics in the Xuandu immortal domain. The Xiantian sect group kept moving. They found a lake shimmering with spiritual energy. A closer look had everyone gasping. It was a lake made of pure spiritual liquid. Even Qin Ting was impressed. Cultivation is all about absorbing spiritual energy. The quality of that energy is what makes or breaks you. With strong spiritual energy, you get double the gains. With weak energy, you're wasting your time. Spiritual liquid is basically solidified spiritual energy, which makes it super valuable. The Xiantian sect disciples were stoked, pulling out their weapons to scoop up some of that liquid. Suddenly, something massive burst out of the lake, sending up a cloud of water. It was a giant python. This thing was huge, maybe 10 miles long. It glared at the Xiantian sect crew with its nasty head. The python was radiating power. Anyone could tell that even a powerful master would get swallowed whole by this thing. Li Juning, Luo Yuan, and Fu Qian tensed up. They felt the python's overwhelming power. It was a serious threat, and they were ready to throw down at any moment. The python eyed the Xiantian sect crew. It had planned to eat them all in one gulp. But something about the leader, a certain aura, put it on edge. A voice rasped from the python's mouth, "Back off, humans. This is my territory." The python was a native to the Xuandu immortal realm. It had been soaking in the spiritual liquid lake for thousands of years. Anyone who had stumbled upon this place had ended up as snake food, including disciples from some big-name sections. But its monster instincts were screaming that the man in front of it was dangerous. Qin Ting glanced at the python, and his face changed. A giant hand shot out, grabbing the python. The python roared, its body swelling, black light flickering. It bit at the giant hand. The giant hand closed around the giant python, and the python struggled, the giant hand squeezed hard, and the giant python was crushed into a pulp. This giant python, with tens of thousands of years of cultivation, was tough. It had been forged in the Xuandu immortal domain, making it a force to be reckoned with. Even a demon lord might have trouble with this thing in the Xuandu immortal realm, but Qin Ting crushed it like it was a bug. Luo Yuan and Fu Qian stared at Qin Ting in awe. They were in the same realm, but Qin Ting was on another level. Chapter 68. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After the giant python was crushed, a strange, glowing bead shot out of its mouth, a demon pill. Every powerful demon has one, a concentrated store of their cultivation, making them incredibly valuable. Qin Ting felt Bai Ling stir in his sleeve. The little dragon popped out, flew up, and swallowed the demon pill in one gulp. Then, satisfied, she circled Qin Ting and went back to sleep in his sleeve. That demon pill had been accumulating in the giant python for tens of thousands of years, containing an astonishing amount of magical power. Bai Ling's absorption was equivalent to inheriting the python's millennia of cultivation. Qin Ting knew that when she woke up again, she'd definitely have powered up. The Xiantian sect members had all seen Bai Ling and exclaimed, "A dragon? Am I seeing things? Oh my god, it really is a dragon." Luo Yuan and Fu Qian were wide-eyed too. It was a legendary mythical beast. They were extremely rare in the eastern wasteland. Dragons, phoenixes, redbirds, and black basalts were the only well-known ones. These mythical beasts were incredibly powerful, possessing innate strength, talent, and supernatural abilities. Once fully grown, they were sure to reach the virtual god realm. Some with pure bloodlines even had a good chance of entering the divine transformation realm. Legend had it that in ancient times, a true dragon mythical beast had reached the divine transformation realm, shaking the entire eastern wasteland. And Qin Ting actually owned one. Everyone was envious. This meant that Qin Ting would definitely have a powerful virtual god at his command in the future. Once the shock wore off, the Xiantian sect members calmed down. For them, the Holy Sun was supremely powerful, blessed by the heavens, and destined for greatness, so anything was possible. With the giant python dead, everyone used their spiritual and magical weapons to collect the spiritual liquid from the lake. They looked delighted as they gathered the liquid. Even for Xiantian sect disciples, this spiritual liquid was a massive boon. Qin Ting looked at them and said, "Go search on your own. If you run into trouble, use your jade talisman to call for help. Meet back here in 3 months." Everyone nodded in agreement. In cultivation, talent accounts for 70%, perseverance for 20%, and opportunity for 10%. Opportunity was crucial. Letting everyone search for treasure individually was a way for them to find their own fortunes, while sticking together was safer. It would mean missing out on many chances. At the same time, other holy places also broke up into smaller groups, seeking treasure and opportunities. As they parted ways, Qin Ting stopped Li Juning and said, "Here, take this." Li Juning felt something being placed in her hand, a magical artifact. It was a small bell, faintly glowing with a golden light, clearly a defensive item. Defensive artifacts were incredibly valuable, rarer even than offensive ones. Li Juning was touched and said softly, "What about you?" Qin Ting smiled and shook his head. "Don't worry, no one can hurt me." After saying goodbye, Qin Ting closed his eyes and focused on sensing the aura of the Yuanshi sect disciple. Having absorbed and refined Ling Lao's spiritual thoughts, his own were now incredibly powerful, at the peak of the divine palace realm. He extended his senses out for miles, soon locating the Yuanshi sect group. A cold glint flashed in Qin Ting's eyes. The Xuandu immortal territory was vast, dotted with countless medicinal herbs and spiritual plants. Secret realms were hidden everywhere, waiting to be discovered. It was paradise and hell all in one. Killing for treasure was commonplace, and even fellow students fought over resources. A bloody storm was brewing in the Xuandu immortal territory. Qin Ting walked quietly through a forest. He had been lucky these past few days, finding many spiritual plants rarely seen outside. Suddenly, Qin Ting frowned and looked towards a jungle to his left. A group of people emerged, led by a young man with an arrogant expression. they wore Qianyuan sect robes, identifying them as disciples of that sect. They spotted Qin Ting, looked surprised, and quickly recognized him. He walked forward and bowed. "Greetings, Holy Son Xiantian." Qin Ting nodded slightly. The Qianyuan sect had always been on good terms with the Xiantian sect, and Mu Qingyi, the daughter of the Qianyuan sect leader, was a close friend of his. He was also somewhat friendly with this group of disciples. The young man, Xia Wenfu, looked at Qin Ting, a flash of hatred in his eyes, quickly concealed. He smiled and said, "I'm Xia Wenfu, from the Qianyuan sect. I've always wanted to meet you, Holy Son Xiantian. I'm truly fortunate to meet you today." Xia Wenfu's words were polite, but Qin Ting still sensed a trace of malice, puzzling him. Xia Wenfu was a true disciple of the Qianyuan sect. He'd achieved supernatural powers in his 40s and was considered a strong contender to become their holy son. But he had always harbored feelings for Mu Qingyi. He hadn't expected Mu Qingyi to fall for Qin Ting. From that moment on, he'd held a deep resentment towards Qin Ting. However, he was skilled at hiding his true feelings, maintaining an outward appearance of admiration and friendliness towards Qin Ting. Chapter 69. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Qin Ting's eyes narrowed at Xia Wenfu's smarmy smile. The guy was practically broadcasting his malice, and the fact that he was trying so hard to hide it only made Qin Ting want to shut him down even more. This dude was a master manipulator, a real wolf in sheep's clothing. Even though he wasn't a huge threat, just knowing this guy had it out for him was irritating. Qin Ting conjured a guqin with a wave of his hand and ripped out a melody. Waves of razor-sharp sound blasted towards Xia Wenfu's face. Xia Wenfu was caught completely off guard and panicked. He knew how powerful Qin Ting was, which is why he kept his hatred buried deep. But apparently, Qin Ting's senses were so sharp he saw right through him. Xia Wenfu was horrified. He'd only let a sliver of resentment show, and Qin Ting was already coming for him. Even though he hadn't actually done anything, he knew the power gap between them. He might have just spent his whole life quietly hating, never acting on it, but Qin Ting's near-death experience in the underground palace changed him. Now, he was all about cutting off threats before they could grow. Better safe than sorry. Qin Ting, what the hell? Xia Wenfu cried, throwing up a magical defense. A giant with a shield materialized in front of him, but the sound waves sliced right through it. Thwack, star. Xia Wenfu shuddered and collapsed. He was a promising genius, but a flicker of malice toward Qin Ting got him snuffed out in the Xuandu immortal domain. Body and soul, gone. The other Qianyuan sect disciples were stunned, frozen in place, staring at Xia Wenfu's corpse. One finally stammered, "Why? Why would the Holy Son?" That they couldn't believe Qin Ting had been laughing and joking 1 second, and then straight up murdered a guy the next. It took them a beat to process. They looked at Qin Ting with terror and scattered in every direction. Qin Ting watched them flee with cold eyes and sighed inwardly. Killing Xia Wenfu wasn't a big deal in itself, but cleaning up the loose ends was a pain. To keep the news from spreading, he had no choice but to silence these witnesses. After all, people dying in the Xuandu immortal realm wasn't exactly breaking news. Qin Ting's expression hardened, and a glimmer flashed between his eyebrows. A tiny bell, no bigger than his palm, shot out with a fierce buzzing sound, settling into a divine aura just above his brow. The bell shimmered with 9 colors, imbued with Qin Ting's power. As it moved, it chimed softly, but to the fleeing disciples, it sounded like the deafening roar of a colossal bell. Bang, star. Bang, star. Bang, star. The bell tolled, and the disciples' heads exploded one after another. They couldn't withstand the psychic attack. Their brains instantly turned to mush, boiling inside their skulls. In the blink of an eye, the fleeing disciples were headless corpses scattered around Qin Ting, a scene straight out of hell. Each of them was a master, barely in their 20s or 30s, geniuses by any standard. Being in the Xuandu immortal realm meant they were key disciples of the Qianyuan sect. These were the future leaders, the powerhouses of tomorrow. And just because Xia Wenfu had some dark thoughts, they were all dead. Collateral damage. What a waste. Suddenly, a massive shadow loomed over him. Qin Ting looked up and saw a golden dragon soaring through the sky. Its power was so intense that massive trees toppled over with terrifying roars. A dragon? Are there actual mythical creatures in this place? Qin Ting was shocked. Then he squinted. While the dragon was impressive, it didn't seem alive. A figure shot into view in the distance, a streak of black light. As the darkness faded, 9 thick iron chains wrapped around the golden dragon. Runes of power pulsed along the chains, and faint lightning flickered. These were clearly powerful magical artifacts. It seemed someone else had spotted the dragon and was trying to control it. Roar! The golden dragon roared, a sound like 1,000 bells ringing at once. Before the chains even touched it, the dragon's roar shattered them into dust. A groan echoed from a distant forest, and a wizened old man in black robes shot into the sky, fleeing for his life. This guy was the same one who'd ambushed King Haman earlier, a peak master. Even suppressed by the Xuandu immortal realm, his power was terrifying. Yet, the golden dragon had seriously injured him, a shocking display of force. The dragon gave chase. Suddenly, the dragon transformed into a golden rope. Patterns of golden dragons danced along its length, radiating golden light. The rope ensnared the old man. He screamed as his body cracked and crumbled into ash. The golden dragon wasn't a living creature, it was a magical weapon. The Xuandu immortal realm was saturated with energy. This weapon had been steeped in it for countless years, developing a consciousness and transforming into this form. The golden dragon rope, it was powerful enough to kill even a peak master with a single strike. Qin Ting's eyes gleamed. He wanted it. Chapter 70. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Qin Ting gazed at the golden dragon, his expression calm and his eyes indifferent, like a god or demon descending. He waved his right hand in the air, and the sky instantly transformed into a night scene. The golden dragon, sensing the shift, roared uneasily. Qin Ting's right hand reached toward the moon, casting an arm-shaped shadow across the sky. An enormous, jade-white hand ascended, reaching for the golden dragon. The spectacle was awe-inspiring, the hand stretching for thousands of miles. The golden dragon appeared as tiny as a garter snake in comparison. Even monks thousands of miles away from Qin Ting witnessed this magical power. Across the Xuandu immortal domain, monks marveled at the phenomenon. The giant, white jade hand in the distance seemed nothing short of a miracle. What is that? Oh my god, what kind of magic is this? It's a freaking miracle, some, more knowledgeable, exclaimed, that's Xiantian sect's moon-holding hand. I've seen Xiantian sect disciples use the moon hand, but only within 100 miles. This hand must be tens of thousands of miles long. It has to be Holy Sun Xiantian. They say he practices the Taishan Sutra, amplifying the power of any magic he uses several times over. Holy cow! With that kind of power, he truly deserves the title of Holy Son of Xiantian. For a moment, almost every monk in the Xuandu immortal territory stared at the giant, white jade hand, utterly stunned. It was more miracle than magic. In a hidden realm, Yuanshi Holy Sun stood with his hands clasped behind his back, gazing at the distant hand in the sky, his eyes narrowed, lost in thought. The pilgrim Holy Sun, the ancient Holy Sun, and the Xingyue Holy Sun also noticed the celestial spectacle. Each reacted with different expressions of contemplation and awe. Qin Ting had a headache. This giant golden dragon was too damn fast and difficult to pin down. It actually shrank itself to the size of a garter snake and slipped through the gaps in the moon-holding hand. It was smart enough to know Qin Ting's strength far surpassed its own. But it was used to roaming freely in Xuandu immortal domain and wasn't about to submit. The golden dragon roared and bolted into the distance. Although the magic weapon escaped, Qin Ting wasn't too bummed, but felt a sense of joy. The fact that the golden dragon could escape from his grasp highlighted just how extraordinary this magic weapon was. Looking in the direction the golden dragon fled, Qin Ting smiled and transformed into a streak of light to pursue it. 3 days later, in a valley, a group of people rested, dressed in white with snowflake patterns on their chests. They were disciples of the Snow sect. Piaoxue sect was a powerful sect. The headmaster of Piaoxue sect was a powerhouse of the divine palace. It was said in the world that he had stepped into the realm of false god and was very famous. The Piaoxue sect itself was quite strong. In addition to the headmaster of the Piaoxue sect, there were also 3 powerful men from the shrine. It could be said that they dominate the party, and naturally there are 18 places. A female disciple smiled. Master Zhang, we scored big. I got a divine level skill. The other disciples beamed, clearly having made significant gains. The leader, Uncle Zhang, a middle-aged man and a peak powerhouse in the Shantai. Although weakened by the Xuandu immortal realm, he was still incredibly powerful. He served as a protector for these Piaoxue sect disciples. Master Zhang smiled and said, yes, you are all the elites of our Piaoxue sect. When you return to the sect, you must practice well so that you will not let this opportunity go down. Everyone nodded in agreement. Suddenly, Uncle Zhang's expression shifted, and he whirled around to face a jungle, as if facing a terrifying foe. These Piaoxue sect disciples were elite. Seeing Master Zhang's serious face and sensing an approaching threat, they all readied their spiritual weapons and magic items. A giant tiger monster emerged from the jungle. The giant tiger monster has an extremely huge body, almost as big as a hill. Under the skin of the body, it was like there were horned dragons coiling around the muscles one after another. The body was extremely strong, the eyes were filled with fierce light, and the people of the Piaoxue sect could hardly stand up due to the oppressive aura. Master Zhang felt desperate. The monster before him was too powerful. Despite being a powerful figure at the peak of the divine platform, he was no match for this beast. But he couldn't back down. Behind him lay the hope for the Piaoxue sect's future. If something were to happen to them, the Piaoxue sect would have no successors. Once this generation of strong individuals passed away, they'd likely be relegated from a major sect to a bottom tier one. Master Zhang gritted his teeth and said, I will hold this monster back in a moment, you guys run. Remember. You must live. The disciples of Piaoxue sect looked sad, but they also knew that they could not behave like little girls in such fearful moments, so even if you stay, you won't be able to help. Instead, you will die in vain, making Master Zhang's desperate efforts in vain. Just as Master Zhang prepared to fight the giant tiger, a world-shattering aura roared in from the distance. The aura was so powerful that the giant tiger monster emitted a mournful cry. Ignoring its prey, it vanished in an instant. Though the giant tiger escaped, the Piaoxue sect members felt even more dread and despair. If the monstrous tiger was scared off, whatever was creating this new aura was undoubtedly more terrifying. Chapter 72. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Qin Ting surveyed the 3 Yuanshi sect disciples kneeling before him, his voice even. Tell me, where's your holy son? The disciples looked up, horror etched on their faces. Their recent experience had been a living nightmare. Their group of 7 had been exploring an underground palace, scoring some serious treasure. Then, everything went sideways. Qin Ting had materialized out of nowhere, vaporizing 4 of their brothers with a single strike. Now, only the 3 of them remained, pressed for the location of their holy son. One of them sighed, resignation in his voice. I'd rather die. Our holy son will avenge us. Qin Ting nodded slowly. Then so be it. In an instant, the disciple's head exploded, leaving a headless corpse slumped on the ground. The disciple beside him burst into tears, his body shaking uncontrollably. Qin Ting smiled, a predatory glint in his eyes. Care to tell me where I can find your holy son? The disciple stared back, his eyes wide with terror, and stammered, he's. Another disciple yelled, Chen, no. What are you doing? Qin Ting frowned, reached out a hand, and the second disciple became another headless corpse. The remaining disciple broke, sobbing. He's in a secret realm, 700 miles east. Our holy son is there. Then, he screamed, I told you. Don't kill me. Qin Ting tilted his head, a puzzled expression on his face. Did I ever say I wouldn't kill you if you told me? The disciple just stared, speechless with fear. Before he could gather his thoughts, his head detonated. Qin Ting glanced down at the remains. I hate traitors the most. He turned east, a slow smile spreading across his face. Although, they can be useful. Meanwhile, in a secret realm within the Xuandu immortal domain, the Yuanshi holy son was enjoying himself, watching the golden carp swimming in a small pond. The fish were strikingly beautiful and seemed almost sentient, their eyes fixed on the holy sun as if begging for food. The holy sun smiled, contemplating whether to bring some back to the sect to raise in his palace. Warner would love them. Thinking of her, a smile flickered across his face. Suddenly, his expression shifted, his eyes hardening. You can come out now. I know you're there. A soft chuckle echoed through the realm as Qin Ting materialized from the shadows. The holy sun raised an eyebrow, studying Qin Ting with amusement. Well, if it isn't junior brother Qin. Qin Ting grinned. Lucky for you, senior brother, finding a secret place like this. The holy sun shook his head, still smiling. Luck has nothing to do with it. If it did, you wouldn't be here, blocking my path. He knew Qin Ting had come specifically for him. His words were a subtle jab. Qin Ting chuckled. You're a character, senior brother Yuan. A real shame the world will soon be without someone as interesting as you. The holy sun's face remained impassive at Qin Ting's thinly veiled threat. His eyes didn't flicker, he merely glanced around, a faint smile playing on his lips. This place is a true immortal treasure. It won't be a disgrace for you to be buried here. They were both holy sons, top geniuses in their own right, and their words were like sharpened steel. Any slip in composure could mean a significant disadvantage. The holy sun couldn't help but wonder why Qin Ting had chosen this moment for a confrontation. Yes, Qin Ting was his biggest rival, and a showdown was inevitable, but he'd assumed it would happen later, after they'd both secured leadership positions, and could leverage their respective sects in a conflict. His ambition was vast, dethroning the Shentian sect as the Eastern Wasteland's top power. And he knew that Qin Ting would be his biggest obstacle in achieving that goal. But was this the right time for a showdown? Now. He was still in the realm of supernatural powers, just like Qin Ting. Both of them were still a ways off from their prime. Yet, he wasn't afraid. He was from humble beginnings, with no family backing or powerful mentors. How could a person who had risen from a nobody outer disciple to the position of holy son within a behemoth like the Yuanshi sect be afraid of a challenge? Years of struggle and overcoming obstacles had forged the holy sun into a man of indomitable will. Qin Ting saw the resolve in the holy sun's eyes. It was indeed impressive. The holy sun moved his hand, and the golden carp were scooped up in a surge of water, flung out of the secret realm, and deposited safely in a lake miles away. Even on the verge of battle, he was mindful of the fish's safety, and made sure to move them away with his powers. Now that's what you call a man who thinks of everything. Qin Ting sighed softly. You're a rare genius, senior brother Yuan. A true hero of our time. It pains me to cut your journey short like this. The holy sun chuckled. You're no slouch yourself, junior brother Qin. The Eastern Wasteland calls you the #1 young person. As your senior, I'm curious to see if you live up to the hype. The smiles slowly faded, and silence settled over the realm, thick and heavy with anticipation.